Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Sarah Renee Show. I'm your host, Sarah Renee, and today's episode is really for those of you who have been on a healing journey. You love God, your higher power. You have done the workshops. You have read all of the books. You're doing all of the things, as I say, yet you still feel like something is missing, or you still have um, this incompletion, meaning that you're doing all of those things, and yet you're kind of ending back up in cycles, or as soon as you stop to rest, the wound kind of comes back. Like it's not a sustainable path of healing for you, and you're not finding that real freedom. This is for you. I'm going to break it down into what I believe is happening, what I see in my clients. Like so many clients come to me after decades of therapy and retreats and treatment centers and we're like self-help and mindset stuff and all of that. And it's like I see these top three things. So that's why the title today is the three hidden patterns keeping you stuck in this cycle of fixing, right? Because over this past decade, I've noticed it's these three things are really what keep people who are doing the work, who are processing and doing the trauma healing work and all of that. And these three things are keeping you stuck. And this is what I specialize in helping my clients overcome, which I'm going to explain to you because my mentorship program, my like most transformational program that I have. This is where we do this deep dive of work. It's a 7-month program, one-on-one with me and God. God leads us. And this is the program that gets like the incredible results, like the episode a few episodes ago about Joni and Douglas. This is the program that she did to heal deeply and have her spiritual gifts open up, where now, she helps other women who have lost children or navigating big changes. And so this is the program that the women like that do. And so I would love to invite you, if you're listening today and you're just like, oh my gosh, like this is hitting the nail on the head. Like I really want to break this cycle. I would invite you to reach out to me. The best way is to find me on Instagram at the Sarah Renee Show, and send me a message there. Or you can also email me, directly from my website. But that's usually the place that I see the messages first. So I would invite you to reach out to me. I have very special rates and bonuses happening right now, and payment plans. So it's more accessible than it's been, and it always sells out. So definitely reach out to me if you are feeling like you are ready to get off this hamster wheel of always chasing, always fixing, and you want, you're like ready for that healing and that purpose that like truly transforms your life and truly transforms your family's life, which we will talk about shortly here as well. So let's dive in. The first thing that I see, this is the most common one for sure, that holds people back. And that is overcorrection. This was like for me personally in my life, this was a huge one that I experienced on my own healing journey. But overcorrection. So what this looks like is we discover something that's been wrong. You come to the realization, oh, I'm addicted to this substance or this behavior. I'm powerless over this, right? That's what we would say in 12 step. Maybe you don't have addiction issues. Maybe for you, it's like, I was in a really toxic relationship, or I was, raised by a really toxic, mentally unwell person, parent, or it's like I made a mistake. I was micromanaging my life and, ended up on this path in this job in this lifestyle that I just was miserable in, right? So the overcorrection path looks like it's a little bit of mental obsession, right? So there's this overthinking, there's this trying too hard, is how most clients, like in their words, explain it to me. Like, Sarah, like, I feel like I've been trying so hard to heal. Right. So this is also like maybe you have some health stuff come up. Right. Like I had an autoimmune diagnosis. And it was like, I went a little insane with the all of the supplements, all of the restricted diets, all of the exercising, like everything, all of the rest. And it was like I was resting too much. I was restricting food too much. All of these things backfired and they ended up making me more sick. And it wasn't until I really brought my health to God, surrendered it, and said, like, nothing is working for me. I am trying so hard. I am so exhausted. Why does this stuff work for other people and it's not working for me? And God is who helped me figure it out and helped give me that discernment and the guidance of spirit to say, like, okay, this is aligned. This isn't, this is like too much of a good thing, or this isn't sustainable, over here, and helped me really get that clarity on what was going to help me and what wasn't helping me. And, now, I mean, my inflammation markers are down to completely normal. Antibodies were down on my last blood test, like, and it feels sustainable. I'm not living a life where I can't do things. I can't, I don't feel any lack at all in my life in any area. So, but that is what, like, this overcorrection, it's like this trying too hard. Like we go too far. And oftentimes, right? So as I said, for you, those of you you're on a healing journey, you're on this spiritual growth journey, right? I'm guessing that's a lot of you since you're here, you're listening to my podcast, which is all about spiritual growth. So you are on this journey. A way that this really subtly shows up is that you start taking responsibility, right? Because wherever you come in to your healing, whether it's health or addiction or recovering from trauma or um, wanting to, just growth, just wanting to like develop yourself to like get to that next level, you've been feeling stuck, wanting to develop your gifts, or maybe you're empathic, you're highly sensitive and you're wanting some relief for that, wanting to heal your relationships, right? The first piece, maybe you even come in through like the law of attraction world, right? And you start learning, like, oh, my energy affects my life. Okay, so what's the first thing we all do at that place? We wake up, we have this, like, now we have this conscious awareness of our life, of our actions, of our energy, of other people, of what's going on. So we first gain all of this awareness. And then so often the overcorrection is we start taking responsibility because we're saying, like, oh, when I take responsibility for myself, for my life choices, for my behaviors, I stop blaming other people. I've come back, and try to get back some agency. We can actually overcorrect because the ego goes, oh, this is a way to sneak in there and um like create this sense of control, create this sense um of I'm still in charge, right? And so we overcorrect by taking too much responsibility. So what this looks like, it looks like you're burnt out because you're trying too hard, because you are not only are you working on yourself, showing up and trying to break patterns and break cycles and maybe communicate better or pray more or have a really awesome morning practice that sets you up for your day. But then you're like, okay, so now that I know what's going on, I need to also manage this person. I need to manage my kids' energy. I need to manage my spouse's energy. I need to manage the energy of the home. I need to, I have all of this awareness and this person doesn't have that awareness. So I need to overcorrect to help them, right? I need to take responsibility for the lessons of this relationship, right? Like, and then it's like accidentally taking responsibility for the whole relationship, not understanding that that other person has their stuff too. God has God's stuff too, not God's stuff as in our stuff, but God's vision, God's purpose, right? And so we can kind of take responsibility for those around us, for how something is being received. So that is very tricky, very subtle, something I see often where it's like, um, somebody put something out there at one of my clients is a therapist, and this came up for her like a work meeting with all of the other therapists in her office. And she was like, I shared um this idea that, I really prayed about, like it felt so um authentic and on point. And then it was like it wasn't received well. And so she was like, I failed. I must have gotten my wires crossed. I must have not communicated it properly. I must have not had my energy aligned going into it, not understanding that the vision that she shared was challenging the status quo there, and it was meant to kind of bump up, right? It was meant to bring to the surface these other fears, these other just like, oh, stories like it's the way it's always been done. Why change it? Like some of those limiting beliefs. So it needed to kind of bring up that resistance in everybody to have these conversations, to get to the point of making progress, to get to the point of saying like how maybe we could implement this, maybe not, maybe in that environment they need to implement it in different ways or step by step instead of just the whole vision at once, right? But it was like this overtaking responsibility of it wasn't received how I anticipated it being received. I felt like this was intuitive. I felt like it was from God. I felt like it was um, so good and so necessary. And then it didn't land the way that I thought it would, right? Because we're in a society where we want those instant results. So then that triggers in her our next one, like this overcorrection that we'll dive into in a second, of people pleasing, of okay, I need to find a way to communicate this not just effectively, but in a way that creates safety, right? And so the overcorrection also includes this hypervigilance where we are hyper aware, right? Because again, we begin in our healing journey wherever you come in. The first step of the healing journey is awareness. Awareness of what's wrong, awareness of the root cause, awareness of where we want to go, right? Like however we get there, it's that. And so a lot of times when we're not processing, um, on a deep level, like we're not going deep enough, it creates a hypervigilance in the nervous system. And so then our bodies are on high alert. So that's why also a lot of people come to me and they're like, I just started my healing journey. Like think this is a spiritual awakening because now like I feel like an open nerve around everyone. Like I can't like everybody's energy is so intense. I'm so sensitive, right? Like have you ever felt like that? I would love to hear from you in the comments because I see it so often of like we get this awareness and then all of a sudden it's like and it feels intuitive. So most people think it's part of the spiritual awakening process, but really it's this interesting side effect, if you will, of our bodies and our nervous systems going into this hyper alert mode where then we are feeling everybody's stuff so intensely. And then we want to go into overcorrective, like, I have all this awareness, so I need to be the one to teach these people, to help these people, to fix this relationship. Like my energy matters, so my energy can can impact this whole room, which is true. However, not through the lens of control. Okay, so your energy impacts the room when you show up and you're grounded. You said a prayer before, you're like grounded with God. You know, you have your angels walking in alongside you. You are prepared. You are confident. You are, glowing. You're emanating that divine light about you. Of course, you're going to impact that room, but there's no way to control how everyone responds to your impact. Do you follow? Like it's some people might be bothered. Some people, the people who are aligned are going to be drawn to you. Some other people might be like, who does she think she is? Right? They might feel a little threatened. It might, kind of bump up against their triggers. And also within this, overcorrection can look like overgiving, right? Like I'm being such a I'm being a better person now, right? It's usually how it looks. Where it's kind of masked in this like I'm gonna prove. So it's different than like I just want to like God like help me be an example of what you can do. That's coming from a pure place. This is more of like I'm gonna um I'm going to give so much because I need to make up for everything that I did before. So it's different. It's like not a pure amends. It's a seeking of approval, right? It's this, and then it's also this overly striving. Okay. So this is like what I was talking about that I went through with my health of this is when we like get a taste and it's like, oh my gosh, I need all of the books. I need all of the programs. I need all of the supplements. I need everything, right? Like I need to do everything. I need to do this for my physical body, this for my mental body, this for my spiritual body. And I'm the first one to say mind, body, spirit, and that alignment is key. The difference is when we are doing it on our own, when we are in that self-will, we will overdo it. We will, or sometimes we can go into that inertia and not do enough. But what I see most often in my clients who are on the healing journey is that, especially women, is that we overdo it, right? And so but that is really that energy comes back to a trauma loop. Comes back to this trauma loop of chasing safety, chasing enoughness, chasing belonging, chasing validation, chasing healing. And so it keeps us on this, like in this cycle of fixing, fixing, fixing. But the problem is that you're not going all the way to the root cause, and then you're not learning or integrating the healing and the new way to be. So it's always going to feel like a performance. It's always going to feel like I have to try so hard to be this way because it's not actually coming from like an authentic, soul-centered how like God's vision for you is. It's coming from the part of you that wants to be fixed, that wants to be all better, that wants to be this certain way. because thinking that that's the right way. So there's an authentic, genuine, pure intention, but it's not coming from this God-aligned, soul-centered place. And so we look to the external, right? I talked about this. You could also apply this to some of the episodes about my switch from kind of new agey stuff to, to more Jesus focused stuff in my own life, right? Because again, it was like this external, all of the oracle cards, all of the crystals, all of the energy tools, all of the right, just like so much, like, and again, like, most often it's like all of the workshops, but it's like, people are just spending, they're like, oh, I just want to spend like $25, which, I don't, sometimes that's a lot for somebody, and I don't mean this to say, I would say if that's a lot for you, to be just to be very mindful and really pray and really say like, okay, well, guide me to the best workshop so that you don't get into overconsumption. Okay. But for people who have more abundance to invest in their healing journey, this is where it will serve you more to not invest in all of the like lower price point programs, to pick a higher quality, longer lasting, like deeper program. That's what I do in my 7 month program is we heal. It transforms every area of your life, even though we start off maybe with a healing something or and and then like the biggest outcome that I have seen happen, even when people came to me and they're like, I don't even know if I have spiritual gifts. I don't even think that I have spiritual gifts. This outcome came as like a surprise to us almost of like, what happened is when we started doing this core healing work and really building their connection to God, is their gifts started opening up. Like they started, God started activating within them gifts like really cool gifts, like gifts like prophecy, like where they were seeing visions or receiving messages from God, from spirit. Um, Gifts like healing, being called to pray over people and seeing like miraculous healing. Gifts like being involved in miracles that God is working for other people, like really amazing synchronicities and like life altering things. Gifts like, encouragement, not just being able to pump people up, but like actually being able to speak life into people and help them transform their lives. Gifts like God showing them, the afterlife or sending through a message, through them for somebody that there's no way they could have known. Like, and when you experience that firsthand, when God shows you something and there's no way that you could have known personally, and you get to deliver that miracle for that person, you get to be the vessel God is delivering, but you're the vessel of that, or you get to use your gifts to help find a missing kid or to, right, like God calls you to be of like big service in some way. Like that is the greatest feeling in the world. It is like, wow, like I truly am an instrument of God, right? And that comes when we do this deeper work and you finally heal. So, and this is where we avoid overcorrection in this program because God is leading it. Because listen, I love information, I love tools. I am like the biggest overcorrector as anyone, I just said. So if it was just me on my own, I would probably give you way too much. Like, like, because that's just my personality. I'm like, do this, do that, do this. Like I get really excited. Um, God is who directs each session, and it all comes from the Holy Spirit. And so everything is customized to fit your journey. And that is why this program works when all of the other programs that some people have done for decades only gets you so far. Because when you are on a path, you're a spiritual path, and God has this big vision for you, the human tools are not going to cut it. They will only bring you a certain amount of relief because what you're really needing is God. And so That's what we do. We bring and we surrender. And so I have my clients bring the overcorrection, bring the fear, bring the pain, bring the things that they've done that have caused the most shame. The traumas, like the dark traumas, the heavy stuff, we bring it all to God. Okay, and this is like I see miracles happen in front of me because when people bring that to God and they see how God responds to that, and they see what God does with that, their lives are changed. That is like a one session thing where their lives are changed. And then because God is just so amazing and so much more powerful than we are, then God directs you, and this is how you implement. This is how you start showing up differently. This is how you start showing up more true to yourself. Okay. So this leads us into the second thing that is, and these next two are going to be a little quicker because the overcorrection is the biggest one. So we had to go a little more in depth. People pleasing. Can I get a hand raised in the comments or let me know if you have ever struggled with people pleasing or self-abandoning? This is a huge, huge one. Okay. And it's where on the healing journey we can get caught up into um, I need to be who I should be. I need to, and then it's a little bit of that empathy, that compassion goes a little bit in overdrive. And it's like, well, that person really is really struggling. Like they just need extra right now. They're so sensitive. I can't bring this up right now. They're so sensitive. I can't, it's so it goes from awareness where when we're balanced, when we're healthy, what we do is we go into prayer. I know this person is going through a lot right now, and I know this is what's coming up for me. God, guide my words. Help me communicate this to them in a way that is in both of our highest and greatest good. God, I know this person doesn't know that they're doing this. I know, and I know that I'm so scared of this conflict. Help me set this boundary. Help me to have this difficult conversation. And then God starts giving you the words. And miracles happen, you guys. Like families are healed. I have a client who she has a mom who has, a lot of mental health issues. And she had been in therapy for 20 years, like trying to learn boundaries with her mom and having stuff with that she had cycles and patterns that she had with her parents come into her marriage, right? And her husband were having a lot of issues. And she, was very drawn to spiritual growth, spirituality, and she signed up for this 7-month program. And we started doing this deep work around her wounds, and God was able to send through messages about her brother who had passed away that were, I mean, that there's no way I would have known, right? That we're able to validate to her, like, God has my brother over there, and to address the core wound of the trauma around his passing and even around their childhood. And all of that. And so once we got to all of that, and God just gave her these insights, gave her this healing, that was extraordinary on its own. But then God was like redirected us to the boundaries that she had with her mom and cleared up like what was going on with her mom, what the dynamic was, helped her set some really firm, hard line boundaries. But then that allowed her to start to work on the marriage. And so by the end of her 7 months with me, I mean, that was like an extraordinary, I don't know. I feel like that I'm like, oh, but this person, like we've had some extraordinary, like truly miraculous results in this program. But for this client in particular, at the end of the 7 months, her and her husband, she like still messages me and, she'll do like sessions or, classes or things like that, um, sporadically now just to kind of like give her that boost, right? But she was like, I still, she'll message me that like she still talks to her husband about the work that we did together and how much it's helped them and how grateful they both are for this, that like she couldn't quite get there in 20 years of therapy. And, and we were able to do it in 7 months. And then not only that, but um, she had these really incredible spiritual abilities. And so when we started, really establishing and cultivating her connection to God, her ability to hear God's voice, she started receiving guidance. She started, being called to share messages with other people at her work, and then God was like really calling her, like, start this workshop, like, and so we created it together. She put it out there, had some amazing women show up, and now she's using her God-given gifts of healing and, of being able to hear God's voice and relay those messages from God, those insights from God with her own clients. And it's kind of like a side gig, but that's been amazing. So it was like, not only did she heal this big wound that was holding her back, and she stopped people pleasing, like she found her voice, right? And then finding her voice led to God calling her to share these incredible messages. And so all of this goes together with like your healing. When you can really truly heal on that soul level, which we can do with God, then we can go into your spiritual gifts, your purpose. Like then it's like God's like, okay, now I got you here. Now I can use you for more stuff, right? It is how I kind of, think of it. But we have to stop the people pleasing, because here's the thing, the people pleasing and the self-abandoning, what it does, I mean, it causes so much harm and so much chaos, because one is that you get so resentful when you're overgiving, self-abandoning, people pleasing, and it's like, how do you not know all that I'm doing for you? And then you can have these blow ups at the people that you love and say things that you really regret and get in these huge fights, and the other person is clueless because they don't even know that you're people pleasing. They don't even know that you're self-abandoning because it hasn't been communicated, right? And so then it can kind of cause this overcorrection where we set too hard of boundaries. We just write people off. We ghost people. We can't have the difficult conversations. We don't compromise, right? Where then we kind of turn, people can kind of get a very self-focused, very much like, no, this is not my truth, right? This is, and there's no, and that ruins relationships as well, because it's just not a sustainable way to be. And so when we walk this journey with God and the Holy Spirit, like you are guided to set boundaries, to break these habits of people pleasing without going too far, like still staying generous, still staying true to your heart, to your soul, to your values, to who God is calling you to be. And so you are actually probably better at negotiating or compromising, finding solutions, than you were in the people pleasing phase, while also being true to yourself, because now you can be generous from a full cup. Now you can be generous from an honest place. And so it feels completely different. Giving from that place feels really good. It feels energizing. It feels fulfilling. Giving from a place of people pleasing feels disappointing, right? So that's the difference. And, Galatians chapter 1, um, verse 10 says, I wrote this down so I would remember. It asks us to reflect on, am I trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? That is something to check in. Am I doing this to win the approval of other humans or of God? That is a really great reflection to kind of boost your radar there. But if you still have a lot of trauma loops playing, that can just fog up God's voice. So sometimes it can make it harder to hear that answer or feel that answer really clearly. Okay, the third hidden pattern that is holding you back and keeping you stuck in fixing. Distraction. Distraction is so big right now, especially we have our phones, around us all of the time. We can get distracted by social media, distracted by that comparing ourselves to others, distracted by everything going on in the world, distracted by just the constant seeking, right? Distracted. We can turn our healing journeys into a distraction. So when God guides me in working with people, here's something that I hear from all of my clients is that it's never scary that, you'll probably see this in like some testimonials. It's never scary. It's always gentle. It's always something that you are ready for. And the reason for that is that one, God knows way better than I know, or any of us know, what needs to come in, what's going to help you the most, what you're ready for, what you're capable of, what's inside you, right? God always knows that. So, but the other thing is that God has a bigger plan for you. So God isn't going to say you can't do life. You have to take 7 months to just sit around and focus on yourself. No, God calls us to a higher purpose. God calls us to be of service. And God calls us to learn and to spend time with God, to spend time in our devotion, to spend time in our worship, to spend time in our personal connection with God, praying, praying like speaking, and then praying, listening, receiving the answers to our prayers, the guidance to our prayers, right? And so God gives us tools, right? My clients I get a lot of teachers and they're always so excited that we give homework, me and God, and in these programs. But it's like the homework always is going to match whatever you're dealing with in life. So the homework will often be like, hey, as you're navigating this situation, do this. As you're navigating this situation, try this. Add this 2-minute practice in here. Add this prayer in here. Add this routine in here. But it's not going to be hours out of your day or something unsustainable. It's going to be something that helps you show up in your life in the way that God sees for you, right? And so that is the difference. And because God knows, we can say like, okay, tell me to do this, tell me everything, because we love information, right? And so the voice of God is very discerning and very I would say mindful, intentional might be a better word about how much information God gives to us and the steps to take and how much gets to be a mystery that we are walking and living with him. And and so God really finds that line of giving us clarity, but also like having us walk the journey with him, right? Like not giving us the whole answer because that would take away the mystery. And we could then get caught up into overthinking, right? Because God knows, like, okay, the human mind can turn anything into a distraction. And so God's going to know how to mentor us based on that. And, and also looking at, so, we look at like, where might you be turning busyness into avoidance, right? Because that's a big thing. Or the constant seeking, um, the to information overload, huge right now. Like always listening to podcasts, always listening to master classes, always watching shows, like too much information, right? Because that's um that can block out God's voice. We need to have our quiet time with God, right? We need to have that quiet, uninterrupted time to connect, to start to, really build our abilities to hear God's voice, to hear God's voice through our feelings, through our knowings, through visions that God shows us, right? To really learn, like, how does God communicate with me, and to build on that. And that takes very intentional, very quiet, very pure time with God. And it doesn't have to be hours a day. It doesn't have to be something that, you know, it is too hard. That is exhausting. It's going to fill you back up, actually. It's going to make you more productive. It's going to add more energy to your cup. Like it's going to actually help your life instead of becoming another thing that you need to do. And in fact, then God will help you start to clear out anything that was just busy work that you don't actually need to do. And so it also begins to open up more spaciousness, and you clear out the distractions, because now you're starting to feel the presence of God with you. Now you're starting to get that clarity. You're starting to, get some motivation, some momentum. And it's like, I don't have time for distractions because I have something bigger to do. And so oftentimes what I find is people will get incredibly distracted right before they're being called to a higher level. It's very interesting. It's like it's resistance. It's ego-based resistance. It's fear. Sometimes it's, the voice of the enemy. It's it can be a whole mix of things, but it's essentially this pattern of extra distraction, of I don't have time, of limiting beliefs, of just feeling like I just can't get it together. I don't know why. I'm, scrolling for hours, even though I say that I'm not going to do that today. I'm so overwhelmed at work. I'm so overwhelmed with the kids, right? We have this like epidemic of overwhelm right now. And I can pretty much guarantee you that the majority of that is due to distraction. It's not due to the big things that you have going on, it's due to distraction. And the distraction is not actually replenishing your energy. I want you to hear this because this is something that I do with my clients. And it's so, if you just take this away today, you will see changes in your life. Of like when you're watching TV, there's a difference between watching a show and being so engaged and you love that show and you're like on the edge of your seat, or you're cracking up laughing, like you just like you are fully present watching that show, between the TV's on, you're watching it, you're kind of like on your phone, you're like, and then you're on your phone again, and then you're talking. And that is just serving as noise to block out what God is trying to tell you. That is what that is doing. And that is draining your energy. It is not relaxing. It is not replenishing after a long, hard day. It is draining you. And so I would invite you to look at, what do you do in the evening? What do you do when you're stressed out? Like, and look at, is that actually giving me more energy? Is it truly helping me relax, helping me restore, or do I not feel any different afterwards? Like, just bring that in. And again, don't go into overcorrection. You don't need to donate your TV. You don't need to cancel the internet, but ask God, like, help me find a new balance with this. And just, start to make it a priority of like, okay, I'm going to watch this one show that I love. And then I'm going to read this book, or then I'm going to go, read some scripture, or I'm going to go do a guided meditation and then sit and meditate with God. I'm going to journal. I'm going to, maybe for you, you're going to invest in this program with Sarah Renee and change your life. And so, in some of your evenings, you're going to be doing like some of our practices that we will do together and, really tapping into God's vision for you. And, that will be something that starts to really lift you up and restore your energy and your spirit and bring you back that like excitement for the day again, which I feel like we are all just craving so, so much of like really just wanting to feel alive, like so many people got really stuck after the pandemic. And so that's we need to look at like what is making me feel alive and what is just making me feel overwhelmed, right? And start to figure some things out from there and then taking it all to God, right? And seeing like, okay, God, you restructure my day. You show me where to focus today, right? That's like every day, every morning I have my morning routine, and then I tell God, like, you are my manager. Like, you manage my time today, manage my work schedule today. Tell me where you want me to focus today. A lot of days I have, clients at certain times. So, like, obviously that's, set in the calendar, but like, I'll pray on, asking God, like, okay, where would be the best thing? What's the best thing for me to focus on tomorrow? What's the best thing for me to focus on today? And that helps me be so much more productive. Like I do a lot. I have a membership group that I lead where we do live calls every month. I release to them a weekly guided meditation. I do the podcast every week. I have a weekly email, a Monday email that I send out. I put out content on social media, and then I have a full calendar of clients as well. And then I love to do little pop-up workshops and classes, and group things too, because that's just so fun. And so when I'm managing all of that and I don't have other people writing my content, I don't have other people doing this stuff for me. So it's very important for me to be really grounded and to be very efficient. And I have tried everybody's master schedule routine, every expert, every morning routine, like again, overcorrection, right? And it's like God has restructured my routine and it's perfect, and it changes enough that I don't get bored, and it's always perfect. It always works. I don't feel overwhelmed. God completely cleared me from that overwhelm, that stress, that depression, that feeling of chasing is a result of this work that I share with all of you here on the podcast, that I do with you if you're working with me privately. Like that is a direct result in my own life of how I have been able to break these habits of overgiving, of people pleasing, of self abandonment, which I didn't have the luxury of holding on to that in recovery because self abandonment was my biggest trigger for my drinking, um, for overeating, for sabotage, for unhealthy addictive habits. Self abandonment and people pleasing were my biggest triggers. So for me, it was like, if I want to stay alive and stay sober, I have to clean this up. I don't have the luxury to linger in self pity. I don't have the luxury to hold on to old traumas. I don't have the luxury to hold on to resentment. I don't have the luxury to, again, to not address and clean up patterns like people pleasing, codependency, overgiving, self-abandoning, overwhelm, right? And sometimes I think that is just such a blessing of having addiction. Like, I am so grateful because I see people who, like, they're not like they're not inspired to heal because they don't see the harm that it's causing. So I feel like, if you feel like you are frustrated or sick of being somebody that does the healing work, that needs to do a certain amount of things to feel okay in the world because you're highly sensitive, or you're in recovery, or you had like some kind of pattern of mental suffering, or you've dealt with depression or anxiety, or things like that, or you're very empathic. What I would invite you to look at is that that is a blessing, because you don't have the luxury. I want you to say it like this, see how it feels. You don't have the luxury to hold on to that other stuff that other people do. You don't have the luxury to live disconnected from God, disconnected from your true self. And that is a gift. It is an absolute gift. It is not a curse. It is not a punishment. It is a gift, because it opens up this gateway to an extraordinary life, to miracles, to living in such connection and such inspiration and such well-being and wholeness and joy, that all those people that think that they have the luxury of, I don't have to do that kind of work, I can just be like this and I'm totally content, they miss out on. So if you say, like, I don't have the luxury to hold on to this, I don't have the luxury to keep postponing, really prioritizing my well-being and my spiritual gifts and the purpose that God has for me, because, and even like your because might not, maybe you don't have addiction, maybe you don't have depression, maybe you don't have anxiety, but your why is because you feel in your heart that God has a higher purpose for you, and you feel that calling and you feel it alive, and you feel God is just like, are you ready? Are you ready? Like, I'm ready for you. Are you ready? And you get to the point where you say, like, I don't have the luxury to hold on to my past. I don't have the luxury to hold on to that pain. I have things to do. God has a plan for me. I need to refocus. I need to clean this up so that I can be used by God for something that's more important, right? Like, that realization can change your life if you let it. So sit with that, feel that in your heart right now. And maybe just while we're wrapping up, if you're not driving, if you can, close your eyes, take your hands to your heart, and just tune in. What is God calling me to let go of right now in this moment? And what is God calling me towards right now in this moment? What is God calling me to let go of? God, I surrender to you the people pleasing, the overcorrection, the trying too hard, the micromanaging, the hypervigilance, the fear, the anger, the pattern of the traumas, the survival mode, the stress, the worry, all of the distractions, the information overload, the feeling that I have to figure it all out. I surrender all of that to you. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. God, I choose to follow your will for me. I choose to follow the path that you are calling me towards. I accept and I say yes to your assignment for me right now. Lead me Lead me to the actions, to the purpose, to the mentor, to the path, to the decision that you would have me take. God, I surrender myself to you. Take care of everything and guide me in all that I do. Use me, God, how you see fit. Amen. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. Let me know. I would love to hear from you what resonated with you, what stuck out for you, just, what kind of struck a chord for you in today's episode that maybe you'll go practice. And again, my 7-month mentorship program, it is enrolling now. It is the first time in over a year. And this is like a funny story that I will share with you, in that I had in my mind that nobody does 7-month programs anymore, and that it's just I need to shorten it. And so you saw me launch a 3-month program because I was like, okay, God, this is like, and the program was from God. So the program is all from God. But I was in the mix of like, this is how things are being done right now. This is what the market is doing. And God just kept putting it on my heart, just ever so patiently, ever so lovingly. It's like, open up this program, look at these results. This is what you're meant to help people with. And just over and over and over. And so I did one post on it yesterday from when I'm recording this, and it already has gotten more inquiries, more responses than the 3-month program did in the whole time that I was selling it and enrolling people. So I shared that as like real time validation that God always knows. God knows what people need. God is calling people even when it doesn't make sense. God knows your path even when it doesn't make sense. And God laughs at all of us because we all can do this, where we're like, oh, but this is like the way that it is. These are the circumstances that I'm navigating. And God navigates on his own circumstances. Okay. And so when you are living in this flow and you're answering that call, God will call you to navigate in ways that are not determined by your circumstances, because God sees it differently. God is not limited by the economy, by the market, by the trends, by what social media is telling you. God has a plan that goes beyond all of that. Always, in your business, in your family, in your healing, in your purpose, in your art, in your living situation, in your finances, in your health. God God works in a way that goes beyond what we understand. So trust it, walk in faith, and keep believing, keep going, keep talking to God, keep listening to God, and God will never steer you wrong. So, okay, that was another little message there from the Holy Spirit coming in for somebody. Make sure that you share this episode with somebody that you love if you found it beneficial, somebody that could use this reminder today, this teaching today. Leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. I would love to hear from you. Message me on at the Sarah Renee Show. Let me know. Let me know what you got out of today. Let me know what you liked. Always feel free. I love hearing like your questions. Next week's episode, I'm going to answer some questions that I've received. So ask me questions. Like, feel free to send me topics that you would love for me to dive into here. Love, love, love having you, participate in the show, in our community. I'm setting up some guest calls that are going to be really, really fun. I think you'll really enjoy them. And message me on at the Sarah Renee Show if you want to grab a spot or apply for a spot. See if my 7-month program is perfect for you. I know because God knows, like it's calling very specific people. It's going to be absolutely life changing. So trust if you feel that calling in your heart, reach out. Let's talk about it and see if it will work out. Or share it with somebody that you feel called to share it with. That it's open right now for the first time in a year and a half, and it always sells out. It's one of my programs that always has a wait list. So it's the only reason there wasn't a wait list is because I closed it for so long. So yeah, so the doors are open. So message me on that. Thank you so much for listening. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and just a miraculous, extraordinary week. And I look forward to seeing you soon. All right, bye.